Chapter 40. Moon lies on the couch, surfing through the TV, thinking he'd die of boredom since Coach Gabriel is training the team, now when the doorbell rings getting his attention. Outside the house stands Eric Thyrum, the god of the axe, and one of the 7 heroes of the world, smiling at the house, expecting to meet one of his long-lost friends. As Moon peeps out of the ajar door, he is surprised to see his former ally in front of him, who came from France to meet him. Eric greets him and complains about Moon not meeting him when he visited France, only for Moon to smirk that Eric knew about his whereabouts, but didn't come to Paris either. Eric laughs about it since the Star of France decided it was a good idea to travel to Paris while swimming in the Pacific, and he got lost in the seas. As the two get into a conversation, Eric feels genuinely moved that Moon had decided to save the world at the expense of his life, since he thought Moon might have known he was immortal. He then gifts Moon a dungeon return stone, a stone that can only be activated in dungeons. Upon questions, Eric tells Moon that these stones aren't rare, so they don't cost much. Moon thinks of going back to someplace with this stone. 2 days later, as Eric takes his leave, Moon also packs himself a backpack, as if going mountain climbing, and tells Bake he'll be gone for 4 days, as he's going to some secret place. Moon gets on his bike and wears a helmet to not get recognized as he zooms through the town towards Gongwon-do and stops on a random mountain road to go towards the forest. Moon reaches a point that he thinks is the location he wanted to be at, and is glad that Eric got him a gift that he can use to go to the dungeon he's been thinking of, and return without destroying the core of the dungeon. He recalls storing a lot of stuff like magic stones, animal fur, bones, and other dungeon drops in this dungeon, which he can sell to get some funds for the winter trade market. Moon jumps through the mountain he's been looking at, and swiftly reaches the top where a giant spherical talk is present. He moved the rock to find the spot he's been aiming for, a portal to a dungeon. He then enters the dungeon through the portal and looks around his secret dungeon. As he breathes in the atmosphere of the dungeon, adrenaline rushes through his body as he wonders why his head feels so much clearer whenever he enters a dungeon. Moon walks through the dungeon while whistling joyously and thinking of how he can create a ghost dungeon easily if he chooses to use a return stone to go back, rather than destroying the dungeon core. Moon feels refreshed after visiting a dungeon again since the final dungeon battle. Feeling alive, Moon thinks of how only dungeons give him true excitement, and he wishes he could have either cleared the final dungeon or just died back then, rather than living this kind of life with no thrill. Moon lies on his back, staring above, and thinking of how the start of his becoming superhuman involved him getting a lesson about underworlders being strong and undefeatable, while Moon disregarded the whole talk, mentioning how only dungeons interest him, and nothing else. His death would have been the perfect end to his thrilling life story, but he came back alive and immortal, with no excitement left here. Moon stands up, sighing, and wishing for the presence of any underworlder, like in France, but right before he deems it impossible, he senses an aura near him. Moon is alert while being sure that nobody entered the dungeon from the human world, so a surety lies that whatever he sensed was none other than something from the underworld. Even with a lack of appropriate gear, Moon is thrilled to face a monster after an eternity. Chapter 41. Moon looks around for the aura he's been feeling when he suddenly feels a presence in the castle, like building behind him. The entrance to that building is a bridge, which is pretty dangerous since he doesn't carry appropriate defense to deal with whatever lies ahead, but the thrill to deal with a monster again makes him move ahead with no doubt. This dungeon was once a laboratory for the underworlders, where they used to perform experiments on monsters to make them stronger. Moon had defeated the owner of the dungeons 17 years ago, and gotten rid of all the possible monsters to make it his special place, so it's a shock for him that there was something left unattended after he paid special attention to empty the dungeon. As a sharp fang-like beam attacks Seamoon, the monster finally reveals itself to be a pretty huge Zudrin. Zudrins are underworld's plants at whatever they lay their hands on, and convert to aura for their bodies. Underworlders use these Zudrins to either absorb their mana or to have them attack humans. So while Seamoon had a lot of dump, which included minerals and dungeon stones in this dungeon, the Zudrin must have had a feast there, which explains why it's so huge, and its aura was felt to Seamoon all over the place. Seamoon can't believe he left a Zudrin seed somewhere in the dungeon, which caused it to grow this much, but he just cannot digest this fact since he made sure to hunt out all the Zudrin seeds from the dungeon since it's one of the basic parts of clearing a dungeon. Nevertheless, he gets ready to face the monster plant in front of him. After an intense battle with the Zudrin with only the spear he had, Seamoon manages to get rid of the monster. As he takes a breather, he hopes that an underworlder left the Zudrin seed here since he's sure he cleared out all of them. And he is also sure that there must be remnants of some underworlders who wish to take over the world once again and redeem their once fallen civilization. Instead of being worried, Seamoon grins with a desperate glee in his eyes, wishing strongly for it to be some underworlder who planted this seed. An hour later, Seamoon manages to once again get rid of all the Zudrin seeds in the dungeon, and keeps one of them alive in a bottle, while scolding the seed to dare grow, while he's carrying it, making the seed shudder. He then walks inside the building to see what the condition is, and gets the disappointment that he was expecting. All of the stuff Seamoon had dropped in there was devoured by the Zudrin, and the place was empty. He then walks towards the chamber of the dungeon core that he's sure the Zudrin wouldn't have been able to reach. He opens the well-sealed door, wondering what he kept inside, since it's been so long only to see that place wiped out as well. Seamoon is confused as there's no way that the Zudrin entered this chamber when his focus is diverted to his spear lying around, and as he picks it up, he suddenly feels sure that there is some underworlder who has been planting the Zudrin seeds, and just like that, his thought process is broken by the presence of whom he's been thinking of, an underworlder. Also, quick reminder as we are going through the recap, if you are new to the channel, some of you watching are not already subscribed, and if that's you and you want to guarantee you're always up to date with all good content like this, so feel free to hit that subscribe button and join us on the road to 1 million subs. And if you enjoy the video or if you found it interesting, let me know by dropping a like and comment on it as well, would be seriously appreciated. Let's continue. Chapter 42. The Underworlders have their strength separated based on their aura, dividing them into 5 classes, with white being class 1 and blue being class 5. The one in front of Seamoon has a red aura, so he deduces he's not weak since red denotes class 3. As the Underworlder finally starts speaking human language, he disses Seamoon for being a lowly species, only to get a burn in retaliation about his whole civilization being destroyed by what he calls a lowly species. The two get into a verbal argument as the Underworlder finds Seamoon disrespectful to his holy site. The final dungeon according to Seamoon, while Seamoon tells him that they're the prey to humans now, as like Underworlders collect aura by killing humans, the humans kill the Underworlders and dungeons. Monsters to earn money so they can have fun in their lives. This pisses the Underworlder as he thinks humans are lowlifes in front of them, but the so-called lowlifes turned their whole civilization upside down. Angered by Seamoon's arrogant words, the Underworlder finally launches an attack on Seamoon, and as Seamoon swiftly dodges every attack of the Underworlder, he tells him how the atmosphere and the core of their holy site was confusing the Underworlder. Seamoon enjoys the whole process as he slowly reveals to the monster that not everyone has seen the insides of the final dungeon, so the Underworlder is facing none other than the well-known Seamoon Yup. The death of the High Priest serves as a shock for the searcher, but he continues to insult Seamoon that even with that death, Their ancestors and the primordial light continue to guide them. CASHAPP steps back and shields himself from the blow as he notices the Underworlder is about to self-destruct, while he rants about a prophet of theirs being landed on Earth who's gonna guide them towards the light. He keeps on ranting something like that till he finally destroys himself, and even his last words are a hope of the prophet finally coming and saving the Underworld. Chapter 43. Finding all the self-destruction drama by the Underworlder unnecessary, CASHAPP returns from the dungeon using the dungeon return stone after experiencing much more than he expected from there. He recalls the words about the prophet and wonders what all that was about since he heard the high priest talk about it too. But even so, CASHAPP is sure that it will be nearly impossible to reconstruct the entire civilization easily, since the supply of magic stones from the final dungeon must have been cut off too. The final dungeon was constructed over a span of 10,000 years, and was a device to collect aura from all over the world according to researchers. This infinite supply of energy made the Underworlders lose control and take an irrational decision to try and conquer the world. His excitement to see the Underworlder was short-lived, since he didn't sense that confidence in him anymore, and there was only a sense of despair, sadness, and fear around that searcher. Since his dungeon has been destroyed, he decides to go home. Back in the dungeon, 2 more Underworlders stand and observe the damage, sadder about the loss of the Zadrun, before it could be harvested, rather than the loss of their searcher. The Underworlder asks his partner to get ready to greet their prophet, as they have discovered an interesting fact that their strongest enemy, CASHAPP, is alive, and this time they'll make sure to kill him successfully. But as the partner's back is revealed, his form looks more like a human rather than an Underworlder. Back at home, Baek is surprised to see CASHAPP back this early, but he can see that he came back from the mountains. CASHAPP passes the bottle carrying the Zadrun seed to Baek, scaring the poor guy upon why he chose to bring it to the city rather than killing it. CASHAPP doesn't consider it a big deal, since there must be superhumans capable of dealing with this, but Baek informs him that other than the battlefield pros, there are civilians who just happen to have aura and aren't capable of killing such monsters. In fact, such people will serve as great food for the Zadrun to evolve, so CASHAPP questions how much these cost, surprising Baek at his inhumanity to try and sell a monster to the city. CASHAPP then explains to Baek how he's intending to sell it to some organization for their research on the Underworld civilization, since he is sure that they didn't wipe out the entire civilization, and there must be some group hiding somewhere and waiting for the perfect moment to strike back at them. Baek mentions knowing the World Battlefield Association is the best organization for this. In a battle of YSM, Lee Neon once again keeps the eye of the entire audience, as well as her opponents, to herself, as she continues to steal the hunt of her opponents. More than that, she keeps annoying her opponents and jumping around to dodge their attacks, disturbing their focus and formations. CASHAPP watches the match and feels proud of the growth of Neon, since more than half of the crowd is only present to witness her. He knows that she'll be very expensive if she maxes out the remaining of her stats as well, since she already is on par with Nathan. CASHAPP then feels a little bad for Yeonbyeom, since he cannot perform as confidently as in his first battle, and only comes out of the shadows when he's certain he could get a kill. Even though the cheers for him are lesser, he is still doing his part perfectly. The victory of this battle finally allows YSM to reach the postseason, earning a huge round of cheers for them. Baek comes to CASHAPP and talks about how he rebuilt YSM, but it still might lack manpower to be able to succeed postseason. But CASHAPP confidently tells him not to worry about it. This confuses Baek, and he inquires if CASHAPP is hiding some secret weapon for his team, when they are interrupted by an interview of Coach Gabriel. As the host praises him and asks how they feel about reaching the postseason, Gabriel is confident they're gonna ace the season, and he pities the opponents. If you enjoyed the video, subscribe to watch more videos like these. Turn on notifications, and leave a like and comment to help the channel out. From researching and script writing to editing and mastering our best manhwa review channel, I will work hard to roll out the highest quality manhwa entertainment videos twice or more a week. If you like what I do here, please consider supporting the channel. To learn more about how to support the channel, check out the link in the description box down below, and if you can't give or simply don't even feel like it, that's okay too. I am just happy you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching. We will see you on the next video. For now, peace.